Si necesita servicios de traducción para esta junta, visite nuestra sala de control de video para obtener ayuda. Gracias. Última llamada. Si necesita servicios de traducción para esta junta, visite nuestra sala de control de video para obtener ayuda. Gracias.
Good evening, everybody. This is the meeting of the Board of Trustees for September 16th, 2025. The time is now 5:03, and this meeting will be called to order. The next agenda item will be the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me for a moment of silence. That takes us to our next item, item number 4, recognitions. Thank you, Ms. Liza.
Good evening, Board President Hanani, Ms. Aguirre, and board members. Can I invite you to in front of the dais, please? We are proud to present this evening's recognitions and highlight the inspiring work our students and staff are doing across this great district. Our first recognition is for our fine arts students that performed in this year's summer musical. El Paso ISD is proud to announce we have one of the longest-running public school high school musical programs. This past summer, we celebrated the 40th annual summer musical production with the performance of Chicago, the musical. This is a time where all the facets of fine arts come together, from dance, theater, band, orchestra, choir, art, to produce an amazing show featuring all of our most talented students from throughout the district. Our students dedicated countless hours rehearsing their roles. Moreover, they put on an outstanding performance. Please join me in welcoming the fine arts students and Executive Director, Philip Barraza. I can't see Martha. Congratulations again. Our next recognition is for more students from Fine Arts. The Fine Arts program has definitely inspired our students to excel in all aspects. The El Paso Museum of Art's collaboration with the El Paso Independent School District had its first student exhibition at the museum. This group exhibition showcased the creativity and vision of several high school artists representing Austin, Bowie, Burgess, Coronado, El Paso, Franklin, Irvin, and T-Mex. As part of the program celebrating creative youth in the borderland, students gathered at the El Paso Museum of Art to learn about the museum, tour the museum's collection, and learn about various careers within the arts. The program is proud to announce that several students have achieved the ultimate recognition. These students have become official professional artists. Please join in congratulating all of our professional artists. principals? Congratulations, thank you. Lastly, we would like to recognize Sharita Martin, Instructional Technology Specialist, for receiving the distinction of becoming an ISTE Certified Educator. This recognition from the International Society for Technology and Education, or ISTE, is awarded to educators who have successfully demonstrated competency in the standards for educators. This internationally recognized standards define the skills and mindsets to transform teaching and learning practices with technology. Please congratulate Sharita for her accomplishment. Congratulations. This concludes our recognitions for this evening. Thank you.
This will take us to item number 5, public forum. Because of the new legislation, as you may have seen last month, we will now be taking all public comment and comment to items before the consent agenda, but I will turn it over to our Secretary, Trustee Cuellar, to call people up.
Hi, good evening, everyone. If we can please get the video to play before public comment.
The district is a local government body charged with serving the educational needs of all school children in our district, and board meetings must be focused on meeting this charge. In meeting that charge, the district board meetings are public meetings under the Texas Open Meetings Act to conduct the business of the district. They are not, however, meetings of the public. Therefore, all persons in attendance are expected to display civility and decorum, that is, respect for other persons, without the use of insulting, profane, threatening, or abusive language. Public comment will not be used for personal attacks. In addition, you are directed to the district's complaint procedures and board policy regarding employee, student, parent, or public complaints. The Deputy Superintendent of Administration is in attendance if you wish to discuss a matter with him. Please note that during public forum, specific factual information or recitation of existing policy may be furnished in response to inquiries. However, the board may not deliberate or decide any subject that is not posted on its agenda. El distrito es el organismo de gobierno local encargado de atender las necesidades educativas de todos los niños en edad escolar en nuestro distrito, y las reuniones de la Junta deben centrarse en el cumplimiento de este cargo. En el cumplimiento de ese cargo, las reuniones de la Junta del Distrito son reuniones públicas bajo la Ley de Reuniones Abiertas de Texas para llevar a cabo los negocios del distrito. Sin embargo, no son reuniones del público. Por lo tanto, se espera que todas las personas que asistan muestren civismo y decoro, es decir, respeto por otras personas, sin el uso de lenguaje insultante, profano, amenazante o abusivo. Los comentarios públicos no se utilizarán para ataques personales. Además, usted está dirigido a los procedimientos de queja del distrito en la política de la Junta con respecto a los empleados, estudiantes, padres o quejas públicas. Tenga en cuenta que durante el foro público la información fáctica, específica o citación de la política existente puede ser proporcionada en respuesta a las preguntas. Sin embargo, la Junta no puede deliberar o decidir sobre cualquier tema que no está publicado en su orden del día.
First speaker for open forum is Ruben Cordero.
Good evening. My name is Ruben Cordero. I have been proudly serving Paso Independent School District for 25 years as the automotive instructor at the Center for Career and Technology. I'm here to express concern about certain effects that are affecting both the program and students. This year, responding to House Bill 773, the course was reassigned by leadership both at CTE and at the high school, which without input from the instructors. I was directed to teach principles of transportation systems, which focuses on CDL requirements, warehouse logistics, handling practices for goods and material. While important, this course does not align with the automotive certification or the skills needed for the students to succeed in automotive industry. On top of that, we are now in week 6 with no instructional material or ebooks to receive, and may not receive them until November, which was told to me by CTE director. While students are still expected to prepare for ASC certification, placing them at a serious disadvantage, my colleague and I submitted a proposal with alternative courses which would satisfy both House Bill 773 and the automotive standard. Had industry professionals or instructors been consulted, this would have been avoided. In addition to changes in classroom scheduling, had disrupted learning. For years, I've trained juniors in the morning and on basic skills and lab, seniors in the afternoon with advanced repairs. This system worked. I have seniors now in the morning on the same day I have them in the afternoon, and I have juniors in the afternoon in the same day that I have them in the morning. The old system ensured structural learning and progress. This was done to accommodate athletic programs. This course has a waiting list which students could not get into the program. I don't see any need to accommodate athletics over structural learning. Finally, IT. A software has been removed off the program that we use both in automotive collision and diesel. This electric work order system is vital for auditing, service projects, and fundraising. Skills USA. We've lost work orders and as a result, we're unable to operate in the same level. I respectfully ask the board, invite instructors when reassigning courses aligning with House Bill 773, ensure timely delivery of instructional material, support scheduling practices that maximize student learning, resolve IT issues that affect the program and competition. I remain fully committed to our students' success, and with proper collaboration, I know we can give higher quality education they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cordero.
Next speaker, Javier Moreno.
Good evening, board members, Interim Superintendent Aguirre, and community members. My name is Officer Javier Moreno, and I'm here today to advocate on behalf of the men and women who serve as school-based law enforcement officers in El Paso ISD. Every parent, teacher, and student in the district depends on the presence of our officers to create a secure learning environment. These officers are not only guardians against outside threats, they are mentors, counselors, first responders, and role models. They build relationships with students, they de-escalate conflicts before becoming tragedies, and they provide reassurance that allows our teachers to focus on teaching and students to focus on learning. Yet, despite carrying one of the most critical responsibilities in our district, the officer pay does not come close to matching the level of risk, skill, or dedication required. Our officers are trained, certified, and sworn just like any city and county law enforcement officer. Our officers face dangerous situations on a daily basis, but earn significantly less. This disparity makes it difficult to recruit and retain qualified officers. In fact, some of our best officers leave for other agencies simply because they cannot provide for their families on the current pay scale. That loss doesn't just affect our department, it directly impacts our children. This district cannot afford to treat school safety as an afterthought. An investment in officer pay is an investment in keeping our students and staff secure. It is the difference between having experienced officers who know our schools and having constant turnover that leaves gaps in protection. I know this board is tasked with making tough financial decisions, but I urge you to consider the cost of not acting. The safety of our students cannot be placed on hold, and the trust we build with them cannot be replaced once it's lost. A pay raise for officers is not just an expense. It's a commitment to the people that protect our children every single day. On behalf of our officers, our families, and our students, I'm urging this board, consider an independent pay raise for our school-based law enforcement officers. Let's back their commitment to our students with a commitment of our own. Let's send a clear message that El Paso ISD values safety, it values experience, and it values people who put themselves on the line every single day for our children. Thank you for your time and your commitment to our schools.
Thank you, Officer Moreno.
Rafael Alarcon.
Members of the board, Interim Superintendent Aguirre, Chief Chavira, and community members, good evening. My name is Rafael Alarcon. I am a school-based law enforcement officer, or SBLE, here at EPISD. I am here today to advocate on behalf of my colleagues for a fair and much-needed wage increase. SBLEs serve a unique role within EPISD. Unlike traditional law enforcement officers, we are specifically trained through a year of field instruction and ongoing professional development to work with students, parents, faculty, and staff. Every day, we are asked to approach situations with patience, tact, and care, while never compromising safety or security. Our responsibility extends far beyond the school campus. We conduct welfare checks at homes, provide escorts for faculty, and respond to legal matters anywhere in El Paso County when called upon. Personally, I've answered calls as far as Horizon and Isleta, and my colleagues have often gone much further. In addition, we handle the same types of cases as our sister agencies or outside agencies, such as domestic violence, traffic incidents, felonies, and severe accidents. Yet despite our workload, SBLEs are compensated significantly less. Currently, school resource officers from the El Paso Police Department and other agencies are being paid $60 an hour for our school assignments and $60 an hour for our athletic events. Meanwhile, even with overtime, SBLEs earn less than $33 an hour, despite doing the majority of the work. This disparity is compounded by the lack of proper resources, for example, tasers, essential for both officer and subject safety. They are not provided, even though they give us an effective, less lethal option to maintain control of dangerous situations. Our radios, an ongoing issue, are unreliable, forcing us to use personal cell phones for critical communication, an unacceptable safety risk to the officer. We are also required to purchase most of our own equipment, from firearms, practice ammunition, belts, handcuffs, and even receive used rifle vests, the integrity of which cannot be guaranteed. As a result, we are losing experienced officers to nearby districts like Socorro and Canutillo. These are losses that cannot be quickly replaced due to their experience, and they place our schools and students at significant risk. Members of the board, I take great pride in serving this community, our district. But pride alone will not retain or recruit qualified officers. I respectfully urge you to consider a substantial wage increase, along with investments in reliable equipment and training to ensure the safety and security of every student and staff member in EPISD. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Officer Alarcon.
Next speaker, Michelle Burisic. Did I pronounce that right, ma'am?
It's Barachek.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Barachek, and I am the engineering teacher at Franklin High School. I would like to extend my sincere thanks to Superintendent Aguirre and to the board members for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. I also want to take a moment to acknowledge and commend Superintendent Aguirre for the many accomplishments you have achieved throughout your career. It's clear that your dedication and leadership have had a significant impact, and I imagine you must feel incredibly proud of the work you've done. As an educator, I too strive every day to be the best teacher I can possibly be for my students, my school, and my community. I am here tonight to express the growing frustration that I and many of my colleagues have been experiencing in our classrooms on a daily basis. Over the past 7 weeks, I have worked diligently to prepare my classroom to deliver engaging hands-on lessons in various engineering disciplines. My curriculum spans everything from electrical and mechanical engineering to aerospace and civil engineering. I have put in countless of hours planning lessons, setting up labs, and creating a learning environment that fosters curiosity, problem-solving, and real-world application. To start the year, I was fortunate to receive furniture for my classroom, and I want to express my gratitude for that investment. It's truly appreciated. However, due to shortage of IT personnel, I had to set up 30 computers by myself on a Sunday, just to be ready for the first week of school. Following that, I discovered that none of the necessary software that had been installed on the machine, or that had not been installed on the machines. Since then, I have submitted exactly 20 Zentus tickets over the past 6 weeks in an effort to resolve ongoing technical issues. I do want to acknowledge and sincerely thank David Galinad and Travis Hamilton for their continued efforts and responsiveness. I know they are doing everything they can to help under difficult circumstances. However, even today, I still face problems. Some students are only able to access 30-day trial versions of essential software even after several attempts to register. One computer remains without any software at all. I've had a 3D printer that is unable to connect to my computer. Students have had to re-register repeatedly for software that they've already signed up for. And finally, while our computers were re-imaged just 2 weeks ago, school has now been in session for going on 7. These issues have a direct impact on student learning. As a CCTE teacher, I am deeply committed to preparing my students for real-world careers in engineering. But the constant technical barriers are not only frustrating, they're preventing my students from gaining the hands-on experience they need. The bottom line is this: our IT department is critically understaffed, and without additional support, these problems will persist, not just in my classroom, but across many CCTE and STEM classrooms district-wide. If EPISD is truly striving to be a district of innovation, then we must ensure that our teachers have the tools and support to innovate. I strongly urge the board to prioritize expanding and supporting the IT department because our ability to deliver cutting-edge, career-focused education depends on it. I'd like to close by reading a short email I received from one of my students. His words are a reminder of why this work matters. Hello, Ms. Brachik. It's been a while. How are you? I'm a senior and graduating soon, so I'm contacting you today asking for a general letter of recommendation. Your class is a large reason why I'm still pursuing and will pursue architecture in college. I learned so much under you, and the environment you fostered is beautiful. I could ask questions, make mistakes, and goof around with you, and that I cherish so much. So I want to thank you for teaching me. I appreciate everything you do. If you have any questions or you'd like additional information, please ask. Sincerely, Phoenix Barlow. Thank you again for your time and for your continued commitment to supporting our students and educators. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brachik.
Next speaker, Lisa Alvarado.
Good evening, members of the board and interim superintendent. My name is Lisa Alvarado, and I am a CTE teacher at CCTE, here to talk about the serious technology challenges disrupting career and technical classrooms across the district. Since November of 2024, IT services were made aware of a responsibility to shift management of CTE computers from the capable team of CTE students to the district's IT department. Almost a year of advance notice should have been enough time for the transition to have gone smoothly, and CTE teachers to have functional labs and working equipment for the start of the school year. 7 weeks in, instruction is still being impacted. Teachers cannot print, our Promethean boards cannot share our lessons, software cannot be installed or even used, and file sharing is still blocked. Students are at risk of losing training for industry-based certifications that are directly tied to graduation requirements, the CCMR, and the district's accountability scores. At last month's board meeting, you, President Hanani, commended the CTE director for his leadership. But what's happening in our classrooms tells a very different story. He has been director long enough to know our challenges, yet he has never once stepped into my classroom, just one floor above his office. It's disappointing that he's literally on our campus, yet acts like this is not his concern. To make matters worse, IT told us that what we're asking for are conveniences, not necessities. We've been told that saving files on our EPISD computers is unnecessary and that we should just use the cloud. We've been told that the requests we're making are below their pay grade and just not their job. Proper education tools should never be dismissed as a convenience or below anyone's pay grade, especially within a school district. President Hanani, you and other members of the board personally reached out to me and said you would come and see these issues firsthand at our campus. That has not happened, and the lack of follow-through is disappointing. I came to the last board meeting to raise these concerns because our emails to upper admin went unanswered. I spoke with an associate superintendent that referred me to another associate superintendent. He listened, asked questions, and came to my campus 2 days later with a team to ensure that some issues would be addressed. Still, many issues continue. Mr. Paz reached out today asking about the issues and how they can be fixed. The issues are not just in my classroom or at one campus. The issues are at all 15 high schools and specialty campuses. And frankly, it should not have gotten to Mr. Paz's desk. The issue should have stopped and been fixed at the CTE director. We are doing our jobs to the best of our abilities, even with both hands tied behind our backs. So please help us teach these students and don't treat us or their education as annoyances. Our students deserve better than a disrupted education. They deserve to know that the adults entrusted with their education see them as priorities, not as inconveniences. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Alvarado.
Next speaker, Norma de la Rosa.
Good afternoon, Ms. Hanani, members of the board, Ms. Aguirre. I'm Norma de la Rosa, president of the El Paso Teachers Association. I stand here before you this evening not to sensationalize this pressing issue, as it has been over the last few days, but to address you in hopes that the manner in which this issue has been handled in the past and how it is being handled now cannot continue, and that is employees on our campuses and students being assaulted by students. While this issue is a very delicate one, we must be extremely careful of how it is being dealt with. We must also be cognizant of the fact that we are dealing with students who are minors. Whether it happens in a general ed classroom or a SPED unit, the priority of this district must be protecting all. What that looks like right now is the question. Are there district-wide protocols and procedures in place that are consistent? Are they being consistently followed through by campus administrations? Are student code of conduct consequences being given? What other resources and assistance is being provided to both the educator and the student? When EPISD or EPPD police are called in, are you aware of how they are processing these reports? Assaults are not to be taken lightly, and at what point do we take this seriously? Does the district have to wait until one of our teachers or paras are seriously hurt or injured? How do we explain to a parent when their child has been seriously hurt by another student? In the world outside of our classrooms, assaults are not taken lightly. They are considered a felony or misdemeanor depending on the seriousness of the assault. As educators, we are tasked with preparing our students for the real world, and that includes consequences for actions. Those consequences are dependent on the circumstances. But regardless, they must be swift. No one is immune from consequences. Due to the number of reported assaults this early in the school year, there is no time to waste. It is unfortunate this is being brought to your attention in this venue, but it is with expediency that this is reviewed and quickly dealt with to prevent further any more kind of this behavior. Our employees are demanding that their workplaces are safe to come to work each and every day. And with that, how you choose to move forward and how quickly that gets done is now up to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. De La Rosa.
Last speaker for open forum is Ross Moore. Ross Moore. And the next item is item 7B. Norma De La Rosa is the only speaker for that item as well.
Good evening, Ms. Hanani, members of the board, Ms. Aguirre. I'm Norma De La Rosa, president of El Paso Teachers Association. I read with interest the transportation update. To say that beginning this year, this department was faced with several challenges is in reality quite misleading. There are far more challenges and issues that have not been identified in this report. I understand that not all can be fixed right away, but many of those challenges not part of this report are issues that have plagued this department. What you have here is just added on. Two major issues not addressed in this report: the culture of the department and safety. The district is comprised of departments, the spokes in a wheel with their own function. When one spoke is broken, that wheel does not function. This is how transportation is looked at right now by not only their own, but employees in general. The general feeling is not only is this department broken, but dysfunctional to the point that it will take major fixing and overhauling. For a department as important to the district as it is the least efficient. Why? First and foremost is the climate and culture. This department loses drivers and monitors almost daily. Vacancies are open for extended periods. No one is knocking the doors down to come work. It all has to do with how they are treated. They are not valued. They are openly criticized and embarrassed in front of others for simple human errors. They are made to feel incompetent. Consequences are swift. Hours cut, pulled from their routes or passed over for extra runs, given to only a select favored few. The leadership of this department threatens termination and/or coerces them into resigning without following due process. They are afraid to speak up for themselves and/or others for fear of retaliation. If you have not made a trip to any of the bus barns, then you have not seen buses sitting in the shop waiting to be fixed. Why? Because the mechanics have all been pulled to drive. As one mechanic told me, he was lucky if he or any of the mechanics were able to get to the shop to do their job for even an hour. When our buses are not ready to go, this causes the overcrowding on the bus with more students than necessary. Unacceptable. Our drivers are also being put in a very compromising situation with buses filled to the brim with students ranging from ages 3 to 4-year-olds to middle school on the same bus. No monitor because it is a route that does not call for one. Yet the driver is expected to drive the bus safely and make sure the kids are sitting down and behaving as they should be when riding the bus. This is a disaster waiting to happen. I understand that not everything can and will be fixed overnight, but these two major issues must be dealt with first in order for everything else to fall into place. Our drivers and monitors are good, hardworking people who deserve respect and value for the job they do. The spoke on this wheel needs much more than a Band-Aid. It needs a brand new wheel.
Time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. De La Rosa.
And that concludes open forum and any types of speakers on any items for our agenda.
Thank you, Trustee Cuellar. That takes us to item number 6, consent agenda. Before we move on to the consent agenda, we do have 2 items that are being withdrawn from the agenda. Those items are 8A1 and 9A. Now for the consent agenda. Will anybody be pulling anything from consent?
Yes. I'd like to pull, G7.
That is G7. Anybody else?
President Hanani, may I get clarification? You said 8A1. I was looking at consent being under 6.
Yes, I'm just announcing that 8A1 and 9A are being withdrawn from the agenda.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yes, I'd like to pull G1.
That is G1. So I have G1 and G7. Any other items? Thank you. With that, can I get a motion on consent, on the consent agenda?
Yes. I move that the consent agenda items be approved as listed including all recommended vendors for the amounts indicated.
That is a motion from, motion from trustee Leverage, a second from trustee Cuellar on the approval of the consent agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries 7-0. We are now moving on to item G1, and that was pulled by Ms. Sutton.
Hi, so I would like to, I wanted to pull this because we do have the contract that was given to us, and I'm just wanting to, I just have some clarification questions, just since, some of us have never done this, and I just want to be absolutely sure, what this means for us. So it's my understanding, and please tell me if I'm wrong, that this is a general contract, correct?
Good evening, Board President, Ms. Martha Aguirre, Interim Superintendent and Board of Trustees. My name is Haiti Peña, the Executive Director of Procurement and School Resources. Yes, you are correct. This is a general contract for goods and services.
So what that means is, in my understanding, is that if the board approves this service agreement, I guess, is that we move on as a board to then work with TASB on additional requests, correct?
Correct. So when, once you approve it and, you issue the purchase order, then you would set up a meeting with the actual vendor, and you're going to go ahead and work with them to design a plan for the superintendent search.
So one of my specific questions is in the contract on, when we're at Exhibit A, duties and responsibilities, A4, it lists some examples. So A4 says conduct focus group community involvement sessions and provide an online survey for community input, which may include the following. And then it lists examples of community members, correct? I'm just asking that if this is what we approve, are we tied to this, or these are merely suggestions?
I'm going to, they are suggestions, but I'm going to go ahead and defer that to Ms. Collins.
Your suggestions of individuals to be included.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that, the other question, when it says conduct focus group community involvement sessions, is that something that we get to be explicit about once we move on from this?
Yes, that's part of the responsibilities of the board to give those, that information to the search firm.
So we're the search firm on how many of these things we do?
Yes.
And that's understood in this contract?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Those were my questions.
Yeah, and if I may, Trustee Sutton, I can share that on my end, Trustee Call and I are the two trustees that have been involved in searches in the past. The search firm will liaise with individual trustees. And in addition to that, I think it would probably be prudent for us to also have an additional meeting with the search firm so that we can craft that plan together. So I think that's a great question to ask General Counsel, that we can have flexibility in crafting the plan as the board sees fit. And, I think we all need to be contributing to that. So, yeah, great questions.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. After the contract is executed, if the board approves tonight, the search firm TASB will come out and meet with you, with the board. It will be a properly posted meeting so that the board can meet with the search firm to actually do the preliminary plan as to what you want. Talk about the things with community engagement, involvement, focus groups, what you really want it to look like.
Yeah, great questions. Thank you.
And if I may, President Hanani, I would just say typically the trustees are given a lot of latitude of how to direct this process, which is kind of cool because it's the one thing that we're directly, managing. So any good search firm, which I'm guessing TASB is, I have no reason not to, they give us a lot of freedom to impact that process.
Thank you so much, Trustee Call. Can I get a motion to the item if there are no additional questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
That is a motion by Trustee Call and a second by Trustee Sutton on item G1, approval of executive search services agreement with Texas Association of School Boards. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries 7-0. That will take us to item G7. Trustee Cuellar?
Yes, thank you. Go ahead, sir. Yes, sorry, I just wanted to give you time to get up to the podium, that's all.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. I just wanted to say, the reason that I pulled this wasn't necessarily in the sense of me not being on board, I guess, with what we're doing. I want to say first and foremost, that when we're given the opportunity to celebrate our student athletes within EPISD, that's a wonderful thing, right? I know that this has changed a little bit throughout the years in the past, and I just kind of wanted to make that abundantly clear for the public, right? That I think in the past years we've had kind of the Southside Bowl, right, and then the Westside Bowl.
Right.
This year we did not have the Southside Bowl, right? To my understanding, I think that was due to just lack of attendance. Is that fair?
That is correct, yes, sir.
Okay. What I would like to see, though, is, I think we've all been to the Coronado-Franklin game, that this is the Westside Bowl, right? More affectionately known as. We've been to the games where it's a Southside Bowl. I want to stress again that I love the celebration of our student athletes, but I would like to see a little bit more equity in the sense of in the future there being, some more, I think, opportunities for all the student athletes within the district to do something to this level, right? I know that this particular event is extremely well attended to where I think the last time, I don't think it's a sellout in the sense of having, 50 or 60,000 fans over there, but it is, thousands of people that attend this. But it is definitely a cost-benefit analysis, right, that we have to look at. $50,000, if it's something to our other stadiums won't fit, right, those types of, spectators, I get that can be a safety concern in and of itself. But I would really, stress upon, you as a director of athletics, the executive director, and, those within the cabinet too, and I think all of us just to come up with some more inclusive ideas to get all the students within EPISD, especially the high school students, right? Because these are the students, that have been probably playing these sports for the longest amount of times, and they do have that, deep down desire to, play well for themselves and their communities. But I would just like to see a little bit more done in terms of trying to include everybody throughout the district.
And if I may, Mr. Cervantes, before I give you the opportunity, I just want to provide a little bit of context. I believe you were here. Yeah, you were here when we had this conversation last year. So for some historical context, the conversation last year was how can we make this a more equitable opportunity so that it's not just the same for schools over and over. And to my understanding, when this was sort of reconvened, a couple of things came up. And one was that there wasn't as much of an interest from the other schools to have this event at the Sun Bowl. There was not the interest for Bowie and Jefferson to continue to have this event at the Sun Bowl, but there was an interest of having to be able to meet the capacity needs of the Franklin Coronado game. And I did go to the Southside Bowl at Bowie High School a couple of weeks ago, and one question that I did ask Trustee Cuellar was, what's the difference? And the difference was that there were a lot more students in attendance. So it seemed that the Sun Bowl was inaccessible to a lot of the kids who probably walk to campus or, go nearby. One thing that I did broach, and I'd like you to just sort of talk about that for a little bit, is if there would be an opportunity possibly to use the funding allocations to have a tournament for possibly another sport at UTEP considering UTEP is in our backyard. And it is exciting for people to play there. I can recall going to playoff games at the Don Haskins Center. People were very excited to see their kids play in the Don. And so if you could maybe talk about a little bit about how this has evolved, what you've done to address the equity, and what some of the forthcoming plans are.
Sure, thank you. Board President Hanani, board members, interim superintendent, Ms. Aguirre, David Cervantes, Executive Director of Athletics. Like Ms. Hanani mentioned, we did have, what we went and did when we visited this item last school year is we came back and we surveyed and polled our coaches and asked them to talk to our students. And one of the main things that came back, like Ms. Hanani mentioned, was that there wasn't so much interest anymore in football to be able to participate at the Sun Bowl. But there is an overwhelming amount of interest in other sports, in particular basketball. Soccer wasn't very interested in participating at UTEP because in EPISD we have turf fields, and the field at UTEP is grass, or natural grass. So there wasn't an interest there. The softball field is not rentable by UTEP. It's not considered a facility that can be rented. But basketball, there is some interest. So we're exploring some ideas through special events with Ricky Nichols, our UTEP director there, and their athletic department to find a way where we can possibly enter into an agreement with them to have some tournaments, preseason tournaments, possibly some holiday tournaments, and then of course keep the window open for us to be able to host some big playoff games at the Don. So that's a sport that we're targeting to play there, and we'll continue to work with UTEP to try to get that accomplished.
Any questions by any other trustees? Can I get a motion on the item barring no other questions?
Move to approve.
That is a motion to approve. Can I get a second?
Second.
That is a motion by Trustee Call and a second by Trustee Cuellar to approve G7, which is the approval of facilities use agreement between the University of Texas at El Paso and El Paso Independent School District. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries 7-0. Thank you so much. That takes us to item number 7, reports. And the first report will be House Bill 3, Early Childhood Literacy, Mathematics and College Career Military Readiness Student Outcomes Report. Mr. Garcia will be presenting.
In the interest of time, I'm going to allow our colleague, Ms. Fred, to present. But we will be available for questions.
Good evening, Board President Hanani, Board of Trustees, Interim Superintendent Aguirre. My name is Christine Ferret, Executive Director of Strategic Planning and Design. We have our academics team as well as our Coordinator of Assessment and Accountability here. Today we will be sharing our annual report for our House Bill 3 student outcomes. For those of you who have not heard this report before, just as a quick background, House Bill 3 was enacted in 2019, and it requires school boards to adopt detailed plans with student achievement goals in 2 key areas: early childhood literacy and math, as well as our college and career readiness, and also for those to be reviewed at least annually in a public meeting. The plans do require for early childhood an aggregate goal at the 3rd grade level in math and reading at the STAR Meets level, as well as annual targets for each student group. As a historical context, we first adopted at the Board of Trustees January 2020 our first 5-year targets, and then of course 2 months later COVID happened. After COVID, we readopted in March of 2023. Then we went through STAR 2.0 and an accountability refresh. And so in September of 2024, there was a new adoption of goals and progress measures. So this is our first annual report of our September 2024 adopted goals. On the dais and in our online, you also have a report The first section is a little bit more detailed information regarding all of the slides. At the end, we have the complete monitoring plan that was adopted, as well as the specific goals and targets for all of our student groups that were adopted as the last appendix. Just kind of to share with you where we're at now with our monitoring plan. Last month's board meeting, we presented on 2 of the areas of House Bill 3, so I just wanted to anchor back to those, the A through F accountability data, as well as CCMR prior year. Today we have 2 additional components. The first big one is we're going to do an overview and summary of the entire prior year, so every goal and every progress measure. We also have data that we will be presenting on our beginning of the year data for our growth measure, which is NWA MAP. So I'm going to start with our first section, which is early childhood literacy. In the report on pages 7 through 11, you'll see some more detail. The first piece was our goal in 3rd grade reading. Our target, we exceeded our target. We are on track to meet our long-term goal. You'll see a 4% increase. And we did highlight for each of these just our emergent bilingual and special ed student groups. We did have an increase in emergent bilingual. It is also on track. And for special ed, we are planning some additional support to meet the 2027 goal. When we go into our progress measures, it kind of stair steps grade levels leading up to 3rd grade. So our first one is our 4-year-olds, our pre-K. Our tool for measuring their on-track readiness is Circle. We're using phonological awareness as the component of Circle. In prior years, it was a letter recognition, so this was part of the newly adopted as a better indicator of pre-K readiness. So this was a baseline data, and 74% were on track in the 24-25 year. Our second progress measure for literacy is kindergarten. We are on track, had exceeded the target. Growth in emergent bilingual and special ed with additional growth support continuing with special ed to meet the 2027 goal. There's a little chart. We have 6 of our metrics that relate to NWA MAP. So when we talk about national percentiles, you'll see that a 40 to 60% growth is right in the national average range. And so that is what our target is. When we look at our last progress measure, it is the same piece, but using 1st through 3rd grade. We did meet the target. We are on track with a 2% increase. Increases also in emergent bilingual and special ed. This next slide is just a little bit of a breakdown by grade level. You can see the biggest gains were really in kinder and 3rd grade. You also will see a list of all of our campuses in our report and a quick shout out highlight to our elementaries that are already above the national percentile for literacy growth. I'm going to just pause for a second. Now we're going to jump into our second goal, and this is early childhood math. This is in your reports on page 12 through 16. Our goal related to 3rd grade STAR early childhood math at the MEETS level overall was to increase from 35 to 49 by June of 2027. We did exceed the 25 target with a 7% gain. We are on track for the long-term target. Great gains in emergent bilingual for math, 9%, also on track. Gains in special ed with still some additional support needed to reach the 2027 goal. We're going to stair step it back again with math, starting at pre-K. Pre-K, we also use Circle. The target was 87%, and we are on track. When we go to math kinder, we are also looking at our NWA MAP. We exceeded the on-track measure with a 14% gain, 18% gain in emergent bilingual, 13% in special ed, so we are on track for all of those. Whoops. When we look at our 1st through 3rd grade, We met the target. We are on track for the long-term target with gains also in emergent bilingual and special education, meeting or exceeded the targets. And you can see a breakdown again by grade levels with our highest increases in kinder and third grade, and our third grade being in the high average on the national percentile comparison. You can see all of our campuses at math that are exceeding the national growth average. The last piece to present on is our third goal, which is college, career, and military readiness. That's page 17 through 21 of your report. We did get a full report, so I'm going to go real briefly through these metrics. The first one is to increase percent meeting our college, career, military readiness. We met that, a 2% increase. We are on track. Increases in special ed, however, a decrease in, increases in emergent bilingual, however, decrease in special ed. So additional support is needed for that long-term target. Metric 1 was our TSI criteria. That is our college readiness criteria excluding college prep. So it's ACT, SAT, and TSIA 2. Those did regress, so we are below target in the 24-25, and I think that was shared last month as well as a focus area. For industry-based certification, exceeding target, and for those that have been around seeing this report for a few years, for a long time we were reporting in single-digit numbers, 4%, 6%, 8%, so that has really taken off in the last 2 years. Our metric, progress measure 3, is a completion of TSIA. Target was met with a 5% increase. Progress measure 4 is SAT readiness. That one did not meet the target. And then the last two are our growth measures for 8th grade for literacy and math. So looking at literacy, we have already exceeded that national average at 52% with a 13% increase, emergent bilingual a 14% increase, and special ed a 24% increase. So our 8th grade growth in literacy has exceeded the target and is on track. Our 8th grade growth in math also significantly above our national average in that high average area. A 17-point increase on track, emergent bilingual with a 27% increase, and special ed with a 20% increase. Again, our 8th grade growth in math and in part with the Algebra Initiative was very high in the 24-25 year. Looking at our CCMR growth, you can see a breakdown by campus of both the reading and the math. And especially highlights, we had 7 campuses in math reach the highest level on the national average. Canyon, Guillen, Navarrete, McGoffin, Bobby Joe, Tinajero, and Hartley. The other thing we just want to share is all of this data can be broken down by any student group and any individual campus on our dashboard. This is a public dashboard. And as additional data is gathered, we always update it. So we wanted to do a quick highlight there. That is the conclusion of our report. We do have our second piece to the report, which is the beginning of the year achievement. So we're going to go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Rosales.
Good evening, President Hanani, members of the board, Superintendent Aguirre. My name is Guy Rosales, Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning. We just shared with you our last year data for NWA MAP. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give you a quick update on 2025. So again, for those board members that are new, we participate in an assessment called NWA MAP. So just to let you know, this is a nationally normed assessment. We're doing it K-8. Here's some statistics. So 7,000 districts across the United States and 30,000 schools are engaged in this assessment process. So that's how we come up with rankings in terms of student achievement performance. So again, to the left, we have our performance for this past school year. So you can see that we're definitely performing at the national average. This is beginning of year to beginning of year. I'm very happy to report out when you look at first, second, third, and eighth grade, looking at literacy achievement, we're already outperforming last year, beginning of the year. A little bit of lapse with kinder, but I'm confident that we can turn the tide on that. Overall, when we look at literacy performance and we look at all grade levels, 24 to 25, we want to look at, again, 53 for all students, emergent bilinguals 44, and then special ed at 25. So looking at 25, 26, we've already elevated that performance. We're at the 55th percentile, emergent bilinguals 48th percentile, and then 30 with special ed. So moving on to mathematics, again, the left column, we've reviewed that data. Healthy place, if you look back with the national average, all in the yellow range, but already when you look to 25, 26, we're already surpassing. So if we look at first grade, already a 6-point spread. We look at second grade, 7-point spread, and very happy to report with third grade, we've already moved up to the 62nd percentile. And so that is our first year of taking STAR. So that already tells us that our students are already in a position, and this points to all of our efforts with early childhood are really pointing in the right direction. Also looking at eighth grade, we're at the 45th percentile. So overall, when we look at math performance, we're at 55. So again, we just closed out with accountability. We had a B, but already, if you ask where are we at, we're positioned already in the right place. We're already ahead of last year.
Mr. Rosales, can you go back one slide?
Yes, sir.
One more. Just for clarity's sake. So 24, 25 kinder are now first graders. So you can, that's what he's talking about. The spread is, they still were at 56. They went up to 1.57, but last year's first graders are now at 51. They're at second grade. So last year's second graders were at 45. They're already at 62. So that shows you year over year the actual growth that our kids are achieving. The same thing goes for reading. Just wanted to clarify that.
All right, and then I will point you to our report. This is just really a summary of our academic support. We engaged in this report last month. So again, these are kind of all the pillars that we provide, which is teacher professional development, support for our principals, of course, job embedded PD. We have curriculum conversations for all of our teachers. We just engaged in principal data reflection. We met with 18 principals, those that were D or F rating to ensure that they have proper support going forward for the 25-26 school year. And of course, academics has already begun with other departments to engage in campus support plans. So the strategy this year is to start much sooner than opposed to previous years where we typically engage in January. So we've already obviously looked at the data, but we're able to deploy much sooner. And then of course we continue to engage in trend walks. I think we've already done 3 sets of those trend walks across the district. So again, continuing to collect data to inform our practices so that we can move the needle with instruction. Any questions at this point?
Any questions from anybody on the board? No? A comment, question? Or any questions first?
Hi, all. Thank you so much for being here and all the work you do in presenting this. I'm overjoyed with this information. I'm just so proud of the teachers. I'm so proud of
Yes.
them. They are they're rock stars. They're the ones that are doing this work. It is nearly impossible to teach a bunch of pre-K, kindergarten, first grade. It's so hard. And then to then succeed so well, I'm just overjoyed with this. When I was teaching, whenever Amplify and Eureka was introduced at the same time, and I taught 24 kindergartners, and it seemed impossible, but they made it work, and if you know a kindergarten teacher, if you know an early childhood teacher, please tell them thank you.
Yes.
I'm just getting emotional about it just because this is just amazing data, so sorry to geek out on that, but my question was, when there's the very few below targets, what are you all doing to change that?
Actually, we study the data pretty comprehensively, so we're ensuring we have quarterly conversations with teachers. We look at those data pieces. We're about to engage in our 9-week assessments, and that's mostly upper grade. So wherever we are, lapsing or falling behind, we immediately intervene with teachers and provide curriculum conversations, data points to ensure that they can provide intervention for the second 9 weeks, so that we're constantly addressing instruction. So it's not just a teacher issue or campus issue. So you have a view from Central. We're definitely looking at campuses and who needs the most support, and we're deploying accordingly. So we've already identified, last year it was 24 campuses that we were working with directly that were on our radar. So we've already identified 18 schools coming out of accountability. We know where we were with the B, so the data level sets when we start the year over. So we're again already looking at data and responding to ensure that teachers get proper support. Yes.
Thank you so much, Trustee Sutton. Trustee Biz? Yes. Thank you. Similar question, but wondering about the special education department. Do we have a special plan for our special ed students on helping them reach that goal, or is there anything different that we're doing to make sure that that we're reaching our goals next year or next year?
I'm sorry. We do. We're continuing to work with our specialized classrooms, that are using either, a little bit more structured accommodations or modifications in that case. So we're also looking at different co-teaching models at this point and different trainings, that we can provide the students. The goal for the special education department is to actually start moving our students from a more restrictive environment to a least restrictive environment. And those are conversations that we're constantly having throughout the year. This morning, we just had one even with our dyslexia students, because once they reach grade level, we don't want to keep them in a structure that it's going to give them a crutch instead of helping them move forward. So that's something that we're having conversations about, monitoring their data, working with co-teaching models, as well as, moving into less restrictive environments. And then the professional development support, we are going to have early release professional development for them that's very specific to their specialized classroom in that need and to their techniques.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much for that information. So once they reach the grade level, these students are able to move out. They still have an IEP, correct? Correct me if I'm wrong, but they are able to now take this class with their individual.
So it's a continuum of services.
So we could actually exit the student at that point, or what we like to do is slowly transition them so they can, become part of the regular environment without them feeling that, the initial shock, right? So we can actually start transitioning them maybe from an AIM unit, into a couple of resources, co-teach before we fully go full-blown mainstream. So those are some of the strategies that we utilize depending on how the student is feeling. And then we come back to ARD if needed. If they don't completely exit, we come back to ARD, review how they're doing, and then we can push out more into the gen ed classroom. Thank you.
I would just add too that yesterday's cabinet meeting, we did share our trend walk data with the entire cabinet. One thing that we elevated was the actual trend walk allows us to capture a narrative piece. And so one of the things we look for is, where was the paraprofessional in the classroom in those specialized units? It's very important to us that they're an adjunct teacher, and the co-teach model applies just to them as well. So in many cases, most cases I would say, we noted that, and Cabinet was able to hear the paraprofessionals working with a small group of kids, individually with this child, with this area of the classroom. So they were moving the kids along. And in some cases, we found some opportunities for growth. And for those particular schools, we go back and want to provide training. But as Ms. Veronica Reyes mentioned, what we want to move towards is more inclusion, more rigor, and more access to the general curriculum. That's how our kids are going to succeed. So we do have a definite plan, starting immediately with our paraprofessionals.
That's wonderful. I am so grateful. I am so happy at how proactive we are being to be able to get our kids, up and out, and our scores a little bit better. But thank you for that information. I really appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Trustee Bills. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Yes, Colonel.
Sorry, looking at just phenomenal results all the way up through the 8th grade. And then regression in the high school years. Understanding it's in arrears. Can you explain, I mean, we see a dip both in TSIA and in SAT preparation, which is critical for our students trying to get into college. Can you help us understand that as a trend line?
Good evening. Yeah, so last month when I presented, I talked about the fact that to this point, we had just been working on participation, getting more kids in front of TSI, because for a long time, there was just a small group of kids getting in front of TSI. And the same thing with SAT, is just participation. So we pay for all the students to take it at least once in high school. But there was not really a comprehensive district plan to prep the students outside of some boot camps for small groups of kids. So what we've implemented this year is we embedded practice for both TSI at the freshman level and SAT at the junior level in the classroom. So it doesn't depend on students getting pulled out specially just for practice or like boot camp things. It's actually embedded in the classroom material. So as a teacher covers their regular curricular material, that then there's going to be some practice for TSI, and the same thing at the 11th grade level for SAT. So there's practice embedded in the classroom, and that hadn't been the practice before. So we're hoping with just some strategic, deliberate actions, we're going to elevate both TSI and SAT. Again, where the emphasis before, when I first got into this position a couple years ago, is just getting more and more kids in front of it, just getting the access. So now we're going to go through and support the actual preparation. So that should be, our numbers should be moving up with our new strategies.
PSATs, do you try to move towards a mandatory PSAT and then sophomore?
Yeah, there is. So we pay. So that's been one of the goals of my department, is give access to everybody. So everybody takes PSAT in 10th grade, and we pay for everybody to take SAT in 11th grade, and then TSIA. Again, it wasn't the practice to have every student in front of it, but that's what we've really been pushing the last 2 years, is getting all. We had students that were graduating, and maybe 10% of the senior class had taken the TSI. So that's been again, it was kind of a twofold strategy: get all the kids in front of it, and now we're going to do some strategic intervention to boost their performance.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for that question. One additional piece is our growth measure is the actual students of that year. When we talk about early literacy and math, the CCMR is 1 year delayed. So it reflects the graduating class of 2024.
Thank you, Colonel Stoika. Yes, I'd like to echo some of those sentiments. I do think, increasing access is definitely the goal. It would be great to have some correlative data on what classes those students who are successful in the SAT are taking, just so that we maybe have an understanding, cohort to cohort, how they're performing. I really do like the expression of cohort to cohort. The data, very easy to read, but just more than anything, very consistent growth. And I think that is really, really nice to see. So thank you for all your diligence. I will just briefly touch on the monitoring calendar. I think this one may be a little outdated. As you'll see over the next couple of months, this board will probably start some work on really having some board goals and focusing on having a monitoring calendar where we're looking at academic data every single month. So I know some of it is board reports, but we're really trying to make that the star of the show here, and it's always nice when we've got good data to look at. So yes, so thank you so much for that. Appreciate all your work.
Great. We will be bringing the board also a GT report with access to information about students who typically would not have access to our gifted and talented program, so that'll be forthcoming.
Wonderful, thank you. Thank you. That takes us to item 7B. This is a transportation update. This was something that
we felt was important to really discuss as a matter of public interest, and really so that the board could have an understanding of some of the issues that the department is experiencing, but more importantly, what steps could be taken to ensure that some of those things that we heard, maybe we can prevent those for future years. So I would like to pass this over to the Transportation Department.
I'm sorry. Okay. Good evening, Board President Hanani, Interim Superintendent Aguirre, and board members. My name is David Ayala. I'm the Executive Director of Operations Support Services. So tonight we'll bring you the transportation update, and to give you a little bit of content of the enormous feat that we took on here in the region. EPISD is the first one to take on this magnitude of operation to get complete. Opening up the doors for our students across the districts and tearing down those barriers, doing a lot of the being inclusive, not intrusive, and making sure that they have the opportunity to go to different campuses, not at their home campuses, right? And as far as we start innovating and changing the dynamic here at EPISD, this was something that operations and with conversations with the district leadership that we took on this effort. So in the interest of time, I'll stop my conversation and I'll hand it over to Ms. Kathy Cisneros. She's our Director of Transportation, who will be doing the presentation itself.
Good evening, President Hanani, board members, Superintendent Mrs. Aguirre. So I'm just going to do a brief update on our transportation. I do want to reiterate, as Mr. Ayala stated, this is the first time that any district in El Paso takes on something so enormous to make sure that we do go ahead and provide something impactful and positive for our community. I do want to state that this was a challenge. We obviously did have some nicks to it. However, we knew that once it went to real time, it would be different than running the routes, previously. So, this is something that we knew was going to happen, and so we moved forward and looked at everything that we identified the key issues to go ahead and move forward and go ahead and fix those. So just an overview, we created the School of Choice routes. We're going to discuss our routes a little, our staffing, and the adjustments we made to go ahead and ensure that this would go smoother as we went along the road. So some of the key issues identified was, of course, pickup and drop-off times. They were delayed due to route. We had to make some route adjustments. Some parts were sometimes miscommunication on the times of the routes. There was a lot of congestion. You'll always see a lot of congestion, especially the first 2 weeks of school. We're all excited to take our children to school, right? And so you'll see a lot of congestion, especially due to construction or whatnot, but there is always a lot of congestion the first 2 weeks of school. There was a high increased call volume with just concerns about timings and routes. And
Quick pause. I'm hearing that the microphones are not working on the live stream. Can we get a check on that?
Oh, no, you're fine. Okay. So as I was stating, there was an increase of call volume, And of course, we did have some school of choice routes that had low ridership. I do want to reiterate, in my tenure with EPISD, or with transportation per se, it's been 12 years, right? And so this is common. This is something that happens every first 2 weeks of school, because it's a whole new thing now. I do want to say that our routes had not been changed in over 15 years, and so this is a big change that we're taking on as a district, not only in El Paso, but just as a department as a whole. So, of course, our school of choice routes were created to enable students to attend other campuses aside from their home campus, which would be within their zone. In the case that they would want to attend another campus with another program, they are afforded that ability to get on a bus route, and it takes them to another school of their choice that is not their home school. So the projected 25-26 school year regular routes were 76, and sped was 75, what we had for the 25-26 school year. The actual routes as of September the 8th, we had 75 regular routes and 73 sped routes. We did have to, we worked in consolidating our routes because we did have some inefficiencies with ridership, and so that was something that we looked at. And then our sped routes, well, those are always fluctuating and very fluid because those are assigned to programs, and of course, you know, IEPs, ARDs, that is something that it's very fluid. We receive students, and then students are also, you know, part of inclusion, maybe in regular ed. These routes do include all of our magnet routes, and the McKinney-Vento is not reflected in these routes. I do also want to state that our routes are reviewed in about the 5th to 6th week of school, in order to go ahead and make the adjustments as far as ridership, remove routes with zero ridership, and start consolidating those so that we can run more efficiently. So just a brief overview of our staff. We have 160 full-time drivers and 76 full-time monitors. We have 18 vacancies for drivers and 28 vacancies for monitors. We did get a cut in staffing for bus drivers. However, that has not affected our operations. We still have, as you can see, if you can see, we have a total of about 148 routes, but we have 160 drivers, which means that we can cover all of those routes. When it does become a factor, which is something that we're not in control of, is absences. And so when we have a lot of absences, then that's when we have to shift our drivers around and make sure that those routes are covered. I do also want to reiterate that all of our supervisory staff, which includes our auto shop, our supervisors, they all have a CDL. It is part of the job description that they have a CDL or obtain one within 6 months, just to step in case we do have a high volume of absences. So some of the adjustments that we made was we of course conducted immediate reviews of our bus routes. We prioritized the routes for quicker adjustments to reduce any delays for the campuses where we saw the higher ridership, which meant we saw some buses with overflow. We created standalone routes for our magnet schools. We removed some stops with zero ridership. We collaborated very well with campus administration to enhance our efficiency in our routes, and we're also currently drafting a model to implement the placement of monitors on regular routes. Right now, we currently do have monitors on our sped routes, but we're going to draft something so that we can also implement to have them on our regular routes that we see with the higher needs.
And I would like to add to that, that is something also that EPISD is being innovative on, as it relates to TA regulations for transportation. That is not required, but that's something that, as an organization, we're also looking at taking on that challenge as well.
So as far as driver support, that we felt we needed to provide them support for staffing, we have been filling our drivers, our vacant driver and bus monitor positions. I have been having interviews every week until we fill all of those positions. We are the only district as well that guarantees our drivers 6 hours a day. Usually it's 4. In other districts, we are the ones, we are guaranteeing 6 hours a day. We adjust our employee schedules according to the route so that we can run efficiently. We've make sure that we reviewed our turn-by-turn routes so that they can have a better understanding and make sure they're also afforded an opportunity to do what we call a dry run. So if they're going to be on a new route, they can do a dry run an hour or two prior to their schedule and give them a couple of days to make sure they become familiar with those routes. And of course, we also assist by making sure that everyone has a commercial driver's license in the supervisory staff. So the enhancements, I'm sorry, that we're implementing is we are making better communication protocols for our transportation staff so that we can provide leadership with timely updates. We are making sure that we schedule our staffing according to our departmental needs. So we adjust their schedules to answer phone calls, to make sure that the public is getting the answers that they need. We've revised our routes online and adjustments have been made. We've adjusted all of our working hours for our transportation so that we can meet customer service needs for the community and campuses. We were also assisted in creating the transportation at episd.org for parents and community members to send us emails with any concerns that they had, and we have 24 hours to try to answer those emails. As we stated, we did coordinate with campus administrators to streamline our drop-off and pickup procedures to ensure the ridership and efficiencies so that the departure times were in a timely manner. And of course, we've deployed our supervisors to certain campuses. When we see the need, we deploy them to make sure that we're running efficiently, and if it's something that we need to adjust to our routes or if it's extra assistance needed with other buses. What we're continuing to do, of course, we monitor our bus performances daily. We make route adjustments as needed because they're very fluid. There are still some routes that we do look at zero ridership, and then if they need adjustments, we'll either remove them or reach out to the campus. We provide training to all of our staff, which is another thing as a district that I'm very proud of. We do provide training to our monitors that want to become drivers. We have a training coordinator, and they are afforded the opportunity to obtain their CDL, which is a big pay raise for them. And we have had many monitors become drivers, and that's something that we're very proud of because I'm very big about moving from within. We also will be implementing Zonar and TransFinder software in order to track our students and enhance the safety and security of our students. Furthermore, another thing we're doing is we're working with the Texas Association of School Business Officials, which is TASBO, to come into our department and check our operations and tell us where we can be more efficient so that we can make sure that we're running a more efficient organization and department through and through.
Thank you so much for that. Are there any questions or comments from any trustees? Trustee Paul? Or, sorry.
Ladies first, go ahead.
Oh, yours, yes. Okay, sorry. And thank you for that information. I know that we have had a lot of concerns from parents, and I do appreciate all the work that you guys have put into our bus drivers and the issues that we've been having throughout the district. My question is, between bus drivers and monitors, looking at all the vacancies, there's a total of 46 vacancies. How long have we had these vacancies for? Or have we known that we've had these vacancies before school? Or is this the number since school started?
So these vacancies are very fluid because, as I stated, for example, at the beginning of the year, we had a certain number of monitors, and then 4 or 5 of them became drivers. And so that adds to our vacancies for drivers. And, sometimes they just decide to move on to another position, but these have been openings that were also left open, and we've always just had ongoing openings, and so most of it is because they become monitors, and now they move to drivers. However, even with that, we still are able to cover everything else.
Sure, and I understand that. It just seems like 46 vacancies is a huge number. And I just added the bus and the monitor.
Right.
That's a huge number of vacancies that we have for a very large school district. And I guess I just would have been a little bit more proactive about this, knowing that the school year was coming, better more than less, and because I know this was an issue at the beginning of the school year, right? And I'm just concerned about how quickly we can fill those vacancies.
And I absolutely agree. The issue with interviewing bus drivers is that during the summer, they're not under contract. So we interviewed all the way through the year. We stopped in about April, because then they wouldn't be able to start in August, and in that tenure, we will lose drivers to other districts. And then we started again interviewing in about, I think it was at the middle or end of July, in order to get them started by the time school started. And it is a process. They do have to get fingerprinted, and so it can take up to 4 to 6 weeks. It all depends. But during the summer, it's not, or before the end of school, it's not very, we don't really hire, because we lose them during that summertime to other districts or to trucking companies or whatnot. And so during that time, we don't interview.
Great, wonderful. Thank you for that information. And just for clarity, all bus drivers must have a CDL license, right?
Yes.
And they are not able to drive our children without a CDL?
They have a CDL with a passenger and school bus license, and then they also have a bus driver certification, which is a Region 19 certification.
Great, awesome. Thank you so much for the
Yes, ma'am.
information. Ms. Aguirre, did you have something to add?
I was going to ask Mr. Ayala if he could put bring on the slide with the vacancies, or the staffing slide. So, as you can see there, of the 160 drivers, those are the filled positions?
Yes, ma'am.
So when you compare the number of routes, which is in the previous slide, you can see that our routes in total are about 140,
42.
148, I guess is the total.
142.
And we have 160 filled positions. So there was a position for every route that was in place. The challenge becomes when we have absences. But the department is actively and has been, it's been recommended to the department that they ensure that these positions are continuously being interviewed and filled, because there is a cycle of turnover that exists.
Another one of the things that I can share is that the transportation department is interviewing weekly for drivers, monitors, and technician positions as well. So we're actively looking to make sure that we fill these vacancies as quickly as possible. And we've had a lot of help from other departments as well as human resources to be able to onboard them. But again, it goes through the certifications, verifying the licenses, verifying that they have all the certifications, the endorsements, and the Region 19 certification as well.
Good segue. How are we doing on recruiting right now? I know during COVID it was really hard to find bus drivers, or immediately after, I think it was. Are we able to pick people up when we need them?
Yes, we do have a pool of employees that that are applying, and that's why I am interviewing weekly for all of these positions. And so every week I do at least 2 to 3 drivers and 4 to 5 monitors. It just depends, of course, on schedules, but I am interviewing weekly.
I'm sorry. Just to add to that, we are one of the only regions or districts in the region that offer 30 hours a week to our bus drivers, which is something that our neighboring districts don't do. And so that is an advantage that we have as far as recruitment, because those are guaranteed hours are important to have.
Yeah, I'm sure that's attractive. I was curious about the comment that our routes haven't been updated in 15 years. Can you kind of walk me through that briefly? Because to me, like, neighborhoods change a lot in 15 years.
I mean, I can just be as transparent as possible and tell you why. I don't know why those routes hadn't been updated. I mean, if there was a stop added here and a stop added there, I'm sure that would be done. However, those routes remained the same for a good 15 years. We did have a router that has been doing it for at least, I would say at least a good 10 years, and he did, go ahead and confirm that with me. I can't speak to why that was done. I can just tell you that we're trying to be as innovative and make sure we're as equitable as possible now.
Great. Well, thank you for taking accountability for that. That's wonderful to hear. Just going forward, I hope, every other year or something like that, we take a look at it so we don't have buses that are
almost empty and other.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I completely understand that. And I do want to take the time to thank everybody that has assisted us, communications, principals, administrators, leadership in a whole has been very, very supportive of us, and it means a lot to us.
Agreed, thank you. One last comment / question. I got this one from a constituent the other day that called me, and in the first week of school, which I admittedly is always a bit rough with our transportation, she was telling me that she was at work and her daughter was at home and the bus was extremely late, and to the point to where she thought, the bus just didn't come. And so she left work, came home to get her daughter, and the bus drove past. So here's my question. The school district sends about 1,000 notifications every day, especially when you have 5 kids in the system like I do. In fact, just while you were talking, I got an email that my sophomore's missing a few assignments, which by the time I get home. But the point is there a way that we can get notifications for late buses or missed
So
buses or what have you?
that's a wonderful question, and it's a great thing because what we're doing now is we are now implementing Zonar, which is a hardware system that when the students, they are going to have their cards to be tracked, they get on the bus, they scan when they get off, they scan when they get off. In addition to that, we're also implementing TransFinder, which is going to have a parent app. If the parent selects to go that route, and that they will receive up-to-date notifications through TransFinder.
Great, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Trustee Paul. Trustee Sandra. Hi, all. Thank you so much for being here and for the work you've been doing. I also have some emails from constituents and parents. And I understand too, like the first week of school in a huge district is there's going to be bumps. I have a few questions. So my first question is, I guess the week before school started, did you all have like a plan? Did you have your routes in mind and you kind of knew like what was supposed to happen? And then did it change drastically on that Monday, or was it, I feel like there was a lot of issues that week that I was just kind of curious about. I was getting calls from principals and parents, and so what, can you talk to like, was there a plan? Because I'm assuming that with 8 schools closing, it would have affected routes, but that's just an assumption. Can you speak to that, or is that just a normal thing for picking a school?
So there's always, that is, to be honest, a normal, in all honesty, I'm sorry. That is what we see the first couple of weeks of school. It's just, it seems like everybody's running around with a chicken without a head. However, there was, like I said, there was some bumps in the road. There was a plan. We do have route selection. We did have route selection. And then they do have a full day to do what we call, once again, a dry run. And so there should have been that preparedness. Also, in the summer, we ran what we call the school of choice routes with drivers and then with supervisors. However, as I mentioned, once you do a real time, this is during the summer, right? You do a real time and you take in account all of the traffic mostly to, in all clarity, that has a big effect. And, we moved the cheese, right? We stepped out of the box. We did something that we haven't done in so many years. And so we did have some of our employees that were used to always selecting their same routes. And so there was some adjustments, but thankfully now everything's, running a lot better, which is something that we usually see into the 3rd week of school. My drivers are making their very best efforts to do their job diligently. I'm very, very proud of my drivers and my monitors. And so, as far as speaking to that, yes, I've seen, some emails come through with board members copied, and I don't think I've ever apologized so much in my life, but I do what I got to do, right? And so I do mean it from my heart. And so that's just part of the process.
So in your presentation, I'm just, correct me if I'm wrong, or is it safe to assume that with concerns about maybe pre-K 3 and 4 kids with middle schoolers, maybe overcrowdedness, that's getting worked out as well, or that's no longer happening?
So there is a procedure that we have. Switch this up. Okay. there is a procedure that we have where we have trained our drivers and our monitors because pre-K-8 is all one campus, and that's how the culture, wants to be. This is how our students are, right? They're in a full campus. What we have in process is that all of the smaller students, starting with pre-K, sit at the front of the bus. All of the older students sit towards the back of the bus. Now, if a student has a sibling and parent wants the older sibling to sit with their brother or sister, they can come to the front of the bus. However, the smaller sibling cannot come to the back because we've all been in middle school and I don't think that would be a good idea, right? But that is a procedure we have in place, and that's a procedure that I shared with administration and should be followed.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I just one more to add. So we are in the process of also adding monitors to those buses that have a high volume of small little pre-K and kindergarten, so that we can support the bus driver as they're managing the driving and then have the bus monitors with the younger kids.
Okay. And my last question, and it's kind of a suggestion, but also just curiosity. So whenever, and I think this is the case for UPISD, teachers will be given a survey of culture, of like how they feel about where they are and their supervisor, and just so that so the district can kind of like look at the data and say, what can we do better? And I was wondering if y'all have that in transportation. Do you have some sort of a culture survey, or how do you kind of check on your staff members and employees to make sure that they have everything they need as a culture of a department?
So aside from, monthly celebrations or whatnot, we go out to the annexes, we speak to them. They do know that I, for one, have an open door policy. I do have their coordinators, which they can speak to as well. I don't have a survey, but I'd be more than happy to create one. I think that that's a great idea, and I think that that's something that we're definitely going to look into. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Trustee Sutton. Any other questions or comments?
Yep.
Trustee Leverage?
Thank you again for the report, and thank you for the candid conversation about what happened in August. I appreciate it. Questions that I have relate to my own feedback pattern a bit, and then there's a bigger picture concern. One of the questions that I have is regarding bus routes from Fort Bliss in particular that serve the Austin High School feeder pattern. Also serving Chapin and perhaps Burgess as well. I just want to make sure that families on Post are aware of all the options available, that all of those routes are actually functional, and that the students are getting to school on time, which is of very, very high importance. So I just want to make sure that that area is getting special attention because it is a little more complicated to get on and off base. And so just want to hear your thoughts on that.
Yes, sir, I completely agree. And so as we adjusted some of these routes, we did receive some complaints about the Austin, and we did have to add buses, and that was part of our adjustments. We also had to add a stop that had been removed. I don't know, in all transparency, why it had been removed, but we did have to make sure I reinstated it and honored that stop because we do have to serve this population. The only thing that I sometimes see on base is maybe traffic might be a little bit of a factor, but that does not stop us from having to be there on time and make sure we provide them the service that they need. And so as far as I know, we have made that adjustment and repaired those routes that feed the Austin and Chapin students.
And Dr. Leverage, to add to that, one of the things that had come up previously in some conversations from the drivers going in and out of Fort Bliss, and that was a conversation that we also had with Chief Savita to see if we can speak to our military counterparts and see how, and good thing, Colonel Soika, that you're here, a conversation that we can have and probably gate access, because sometimes our school buses are behind troops and civilian workers that go into Fort Bliss, and it causes a delays. So there is a conversation on the back end trying to, and I'll reach out to Colonel Soika and see if we can help out in that transition for transportation as well.
I also got most of those phone calls. And my son was one of the ones that was delayed for 2 hours in that first week. So I appreciate the adjustments that have been made, and I am seeing a much better from the military community. That I think we've gotten a lot better. I'll double check on some of the Austin students, but I know from the Chapin side, we've caught up. Instead of complaining at you, I wanted to offer a little bit of help, not on the gate at Cassidy, that's just going to be hard. I will figure something out, but I wanted to ask you if you are in touch with our transition assistance program. So on a regular basis, coming out of the military, we have soldiers that do a CDL license with Phoenix on their way out. And you also have a ready group of folks who would be great bus monitors and other things who are transitioning from service. So if you aren't already in touch with our Department of Human Resources and our Transition Assistance Program, I'd love to put you in touch with them because I think I can offer you a great pool of folks that can help you with those vacancies. So,
Absolutely. That would be great. That
So
would
we'll
be
talk afterwards
greatly,
on that
greatly
one.
appreciated. Yes, sir.
And reference the gates, I am neck deep in all kinds of fights with the gates. We have a whole bunch of soldiers that are coming back from deployment right now, and so our gates are a little bit overwhelmed in lots of different ways. And so I am doing my best. I've got more people working the gates. I've extended hours on my shifts to the people that work those gates, so they overlap in the mornings to try to cover that time frame. But it's going to be you guys know what it looks like coming on. If you've gone on through Cassidy Gate in the morning, it's rough, and there's nowhere to bypass, which is what I would love to be able to do with you guys, but I don't have a space.
Absolutely. I understand.
Yeah.
Thank you, Colonel. Thank you for the offer of help. I think we're probably going to take it.
We will.
Most of them are good on their fingerprints and their and things like that too. So.
Well, a couple other questions I have. I just wanted to, so you said there was a staffing cut, 160 full-time drivers, but when was the staffing that we have them on? I don't want to say that we cut 160. Just want to clarify, when were the cuts?
There was a staffing cut towards the end of the school year last year, but that didn't affect any of our, it did not. They were positions that had been open for over, I believe, over a year.
Closed position.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Gotcha. Finally, I have a question regarding destination district redesign. This is one of the issues that we had all discussed as a board, and it was one of the elements that was definitely going to be in the plan. It was definitely in the plan that we discussed back in November of 2024. I believe it was 30 to 40 additional bus routes, which I think was going to come out to something, of 100 bus routes. And the data you're showing us today indicates that there's 75 bus routes. So my question is, what happened there?
So the school of choice routes was separate and apart. That was going to happen whether DDR passed or didn't pass. That was just something that we felt we wanted to do as a district to entice not only our students, but maybe bring in more students from other districts as well. And so as I stated earlier, there was inefficiencies. There was buses that were running with low ridership. And so once we consolidated those routes and really looked into our software and our ridership, that's how we were able to condense those routes while still providing a service throughout the zones.
Okay, so if it was separate and apart, it would have happened one way or the other?
Yes, sir.
But it didn't happen because there was a consolidation that came on. When did that happen?
The
Consolidation of these routes, when were you discussing?
Oh, the consolidation of the routes had to happen either way. So we just were running inefficiently. In all transparency, the routes were already being looked at to be consolidated.
And if I can add to that, Dr. Leverage, one of the things that we did bring on TransFinder for additional support, additional training for our routers, to be able to, so that we can get an overall picture. It's just the same thing that we're trying to be innovative right now with the monitors, and we also brought them in to make sure that we're running these efficient routes, right? And in doing so, we also looked at the programs that we have. So we're also upgrading to that TransFinder Plus model, where it gives us a little more consistency, more efficiency with that program itself. So we are working actively with our industry partners to make sure that we continue to run the best model that we can for transportation and operations as a whole.
So how many school of choice riders are there?
Ms. Kathy can attest, school of choice themselves, do you have those numbers?
So as far as the school of choice, we don't have a lot of people that took advantage of that program. We do have some standing school of choice routes that are mostly campus to campus. But to give you a more precise number, I can give you that later. But we have consolidated some of those school of choice routes.
We can follow that up with the board reports.
I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Sorry for not asking in advance. Apologies abound. So, thank you so much, really appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
And we will look forward to hearing from you again. So
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Just to reiterate some of the things that I'm hearing, vacancies, I guess it sounds like we're fully staffed for what our current needs are, especially considering that many of those anticipated school of choice riders are not actually using the school of choice bus.
Yes, ma'am.
I think that would be helpful. I think there probably was a disconnect between the projected number of students that would be taking advantage of that versus what actually happened. I suppose in the event that there becomes critical vacancies, if we could just be made aware of that.
Absolutely.
Expeditiously so that we can, one, have that awareness and two, provide assistance. I do agree with Trustee Call that the communication aspect is really, really important. I have gotten campus-wide emails if a bus route is late. When my daughter was at that campus, and she wasn't even on that bus, but we did get campus-wide, so maybe there can be a policy that if any bus is late, even though you are using these apps, sometimes parents are just used to getting an email or seeing a text message. So I think maybe having an internal policy that if there is any bus that's going to be late, that campus is responsible for sending campus-wide communication out, because it is very scary if you don't know where your child is. And I don't think that we should ever be putting ourselves in that position where parents are having to reach out to a board member because they don't know where their child is. I'm hearing also that safety, especially for little ones, is really important. I know that we had one very big issue. So anything that can be communicated on how some of those safeguards are being put into place. Very thankful that that did not go worse than it did, but we have to take those things very, very seriously. So those safeguards, I think, as internal policies, if we could be made aware of that, I think that's also important. I'm hearing culture as being an issue, survey. And then I guess the only thing I would have, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Ms. Patty. I wanted to add that as far as the survey, we do have an annual staff climate survey. This year, it'll open in January and February. So that's a district-wide survey for all employees. So we won't all only get to see what that feeling is within the Department of Transportation, but across the district. Campuses and
Thank you for that. And then I think the thing that I would add is going back to the issue of communication. I know this school choice thing, we ramped up the routes quite significantly, and then it appeared as though they sort of just almost dropped almost entirely once those consolidation decisions were made, which understandably so, the ridership just wasn't there. I think, if we're doing our due diligence to ensure that this doesn't happen again, I know that we get a lot of our registrations early on in the year. I think the most important thing to focus on is any communication to parent for the upcoming school year to be made as early as possible. So that could possibly be one dry one once we reach 90% or 80% of registration anticipation, so that we're recalibrating early. I think it's just really important, and I think the biggest takeaway I had is that parents were still getting or wondering what buses kids were going to be on, within a week of school. So I think those are the most important things to address. I do really want to thank you all for being so transparent and calling to light some of the issues that you saw. I think the best thing that we can do is call out what went wrong and then tell the public and our parents and our community members what we're going to do to fix it for the future. So I think it would be great if we could get maybe an update in April on what it would look like for the forthcoming year. Now that things have kind of stabilized, it should be hopefully smooth sailing from here on out. But thank you again for being here.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you all.
That takes us to our last report. of the day. Oh, I thought we'd be done
I'm
by
sorry,
7.
I just got a text saying that we still can't be heard.
So it's, Ms. Carrasco, I'm gonna, if you don't mind, read the text, read some of the text that I got. Some individuals watching the live feed are having issues while others are not. Staff is trying to find the source of the issue. Unfortunately, we don't know why some can hear and why some can't, but our recordings are working properly, so all of this is going to be recorded and posted in the AM.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the update I have, but thank you. Thank you again. Several of those came in. Okay, sounds good. We will be moving on now to 7A. This is a report on attendance efforts and campaign. As we've seen before, we passed a resolution early on, really trying to call attention to the low attendance and trying to make a concerted effort as a board to help bring that attendance up. So we look forward to hearing how that is culminating. Thank you.
Good evening, Board President Hanani, trustees, Interim Superintendent Ms. Aguirre. I am Liza Rodriguez, Chief Communication Officer.
I'm Seb Onzelli, Communications Director.
Good evening, Lisa Estrada Batson, Assistant Superintendent for Student and Parent Services.
Hi, good afternoon or good evening. Maribel Macias, Chief Organizational Transformation and Innovation Officer.
Okay, so we're here today. We're excited to share some of the campaign efforts that we're taking on as a district. If we can go to the next, yeah. So just a reminder of why attendance matters, right? And research shows that students come to school when they feel a sense of belonging. So El Paso ISD has been working hard to provide more opportunities. You know, we expanded intramurals to the 3rd grade level. We have Kickstart at 4 middle schools. We just launched esports at Guillen Middle School, which some of you were there to help us launch, so thank you for that. From personal experience, I have a 2nd grader that takes yoga every Friday morning, and she won't miss school because she'll be there at 7 a.m. to take her yoga. And so it's activities like this that are helping us close the gap. Data showing us that Fridays have 3% lower attendance average than the highest point of any other day during the week. So we see principals across the board being innovative. I know Ms. Aguirre shared another example of another campus. If you're present Monday through Thursday, you get a free dress day on Friday. And we know dress days is a big deal to our students. So we also know research shows that missing just 10% of school causes a grade. They'll drop a letter grade. And our data is also showing this. Our data shows a 9% attendance gap between students who earn an A and students who earn an F. So our data is also aligning with the research that we're seeing nationally. And we all know consistent attendance is a strong predictor of graduation success, and we know that 1% increase in average daily attendance, or ADA, is $3.2 million. And why does money matter? Well, because this will go back into the classroom to provide opportunities for our teachers and our students. And I also think it's important to anchor our actions in historic contexts. So in 2016, El Paso ISD became a district of innovation, and you see there a slight decrease in attendance. But it's in 2021, when the pandemic hit, that we see a significant decrease in attendance. And we saw this nationwide, and districts are having a hard time coming back to pre-pandemic attendance levels. And after research, and we're seeing that there's been a mind shift in both parents and students. So we did some research when we were developing our campaign. We need to understand the change in mind shift to be able to connect with the parents and students and what would entice them to come back to school. So what are we doing? This is more than a campaign. We're really trying to build a culture of attendance. So the first thing that we're doing is we are launching a campaign called Right Here, Right Now, because, and there was a lot of research that went into this. We surveyed principals, we spoke to students. This is a campaign by the students for the students. we're really trying to change that. The campaign is through the lens of a student because they're the ones that we're trying to get into the classroom. So we need to understand what drives them and what's going to motivate them to come to school. And post-pandemic, one of the things that we're seeing is the demographic of a student who's not coming to school is varied, and the reasons are varied. Therefore, our campaign needs to be different. And I'm not showing the campaign right now because there's a reveal coming out tomorrow to Friday. It's a slow reveal. We're really excited. Follow us on social media, on the website. We're really, really excited. We did a lot of research for Gen Z, what they value, what they look for. They're very different from when we were, they like authenticity. They like eco-friendly. They don't like heavily scripted ads. They like it to feel authentic and that they're in control. So I hope when you see it tomorrow, the full reveal will be on Friday, and that you help us share the message. We are also, another pillar of this culture is we are connecting and bringing awareness to our parents, reminding them about the importance of a student being in class. We understand now, post-pandemic again, with the one-to-one device, that a lot of our kids or parents feel, well, they'll finish the assignment on this device, but there's so much more that the kids are missing when they're not in school. One of the things to the campaign is when you miss school, you're missing moments, you're missing milestones, and you're literally missing from the photo. So we're really excited. Another pillar of this culture is we are working with our partners in education, not only for monetary incentives or support, but for them to help us be the voice, for them to share our post, for them to do videos for us, for them to visit our schools. So we're really working with our partners in education. We're working very closely with our Education Foundation. That Saban will go into a little deeper in the presentation. And lastly, we're continuing to review and strengthen our policies and procedures, continuing to improve and also look at the new way of families and students and making sure that our policies align to that.
So as Ms. Rodriguez referenced, we did want to base this campaign in research. A lot of what we do in the communications department is the intersection of art and science. We have to trust our instincts, but be data-driven there. So we met with principals on a general concept that we developed in July. We had heavy principal participation. About 68 of our principals across the district gave us insights on what they were seeing on the ground, efforts they'd had over the years that had worked, and we gave them options on directions we could go in. 73% of them selected the direction we've picked, and then that direction went to our design students for them to give us feedback and research on where we should shape it. Again, we're not going to do the reveal right now because the third act is the most important act, and you'll get that on Friday. Now, with that, we did, as Ms. Rodriguez mentioned, we have to go to these stakeholders where they are. A lot of what we've tried to do in the communications department over the past few years is meet our parents, families, staff on the platforms they are, which means we have to have this campaign exist in multiple places. So some of it has already started. We had a soft launch with the telethon on the 5th. On the 20th, we're going to people's doors through Operation Search. The week after that, there is a game between Coronado and Franklin that is launching our attendance battles between high schools, where we're leveraging that sense of competition that happens in attendance sprints for our high schools to compete with each other. There'll be incentives for students, but the principals get to take home a Wrestling Federation belt, which you all can get a closer look at, and we feel like the belt will solve everything. So. But beyond that, we're working with getting that information out at different levels and in different classrooms through recognition. So this can't be one arrow in the quiver. The quiver has to be filled with arrows that all hit the mark. As we mentioned, that data-informed campaign, that needs to be transparent. So we're going to be sharing updates weekly on how we're performing. We're going to have those recognitions going out at the classroom and campus level, but also at the district level through the newsletter and through our website on how this is performing and how our attendance is doing. We will support this with a paid media campaign that's targeted on social. So we have to reach the kids who aren't coming to us. They might not be following our social, so we have to reach them. We mentioned the recognitions. Some of those will be macro. across the district, the highest percentage across the whole semester, but some of them will be micro, like the teachers who do little things like the stickers my kids bring home. They are thrilled for those, right? So if you have perfect attendance, and we want to acknowledge those people who are finding different ways to do this on the ground in their communities and in their culture. And then parent awareness is a big part of this. I think we have to be very honest with our stakeholders of our expectations of them. Attendance isn't just driven from the schools out, it's driven from that kitchen table in. So we have to set that expectations of our parents, communicate with them, and let them know how their efforts are being successful. And then finally, partnering with our community, our kids go on and bolster all of El Paso and all of this region. So these stakeholders who are supporting us, they know how important it is for these kids to be in classes. So we've had commitments from public leaders, we've had commitments from entertainment leaders to support this. You will start seeing those roll out. A theme of today's board meeting has been how well we're working across departments. We've had great support from SPA, from data, from school leadership, from the foundation. The foundation has dedicated October 16th, which is El Paso Giving Day, to raising funds to support attendance. So when that comes out, please share it, spread it as wide as you can, and we'll keep pushing this forward. And with that,
I'm up. So good evening. And I just want to start off by saying that this has been a wonderful experience working with the team, because it has taken many departments to come together and to share their expertise. Student and Parent Services, as you know, we spearhead the technical side, but coming together with the creative minds here has really made a difference. So I'm really proud to be here to present with this team. When it comes to the policies, procedures, and also the processes, Student Parent Services, well, we outline and we want to make sure that everything is aligned with the district. So in doing so, we start off with our processes and alignment of district processes, such as outlining staff roles, making sure that everyone from our principals to our teachers to our parents to our support staff, that they understand their role when it comes to attendance and what their responsibilities are. Also making sure that our attendance self-audits, which come by way of TEA, that those are getting done and giving our campuses an opportunity to see what's happening on their campus, what are those trends, what do we maybe address as a campus that maybe another campus isn't facing, right? But it gives an insight into the campus administration's issues with attendance as far as their students are concerned. Also, just making sure that we're providing those special reports that can help show a little bit more data, right, as far as what's happening on the campus, from teacher reports, attendance not taken reports. Being able to break down those resources for our campus has been very, very important as well. The next portion of this particular slide, because I really drew this slide out, is the clear communication protocols, making sure that as Student and Parent Services is rolling out the alignment and all the resources and the expectations, that we're also doing that by way of not just beginning, middle, and end of year trainings, but that we're also offering those monthly, that we're making an opportunity to be present at administrator PLCs, at leadership, so that we can make sure that we're also available to answer questions from administrators as they're, coming across certain situations. The other portion of centralized materials is just making sure that all of our entire district, but that all of our campuses are using the same forms, right? They're addressing situations in the same manner, so that when we have siblings at maybe one level, let's say middle school, that they're receiving the same answer and the same support from elementary as they do high school, right? We want to make sure that the forms are consistent, that the questions and the responses are the same, that those are also aligned and consistent coming from Student and Parent Services. So when we talk about centralized materials, having that location, which we're also very proud to share, because we have taken a page out of academics. They have Acadesk, and now Student and Parent Services has SPS Connect. So it also works by way of Zendesk, where administrators or support staff can put in a ticket requesting support from our department, either by way of an email, telephone, or even on site. Maybe they need us to go down there and see what it is they're facing so that we can help troubleshoot. But in doing so, we're able to track the service and the support that we're providing our districts. So we're really excited about SPS Connect, and again, aligning processes not just within SPS, but across departments, because we're following suit with academics. Seems to be working well for them. So we just started it this year, so we're hoping that we'll get some great feedback from our campuses. And finally, proactive measures. This is something that we have really been trying. I know today's board meeting, we've talked about communication and making sure our parents are always aware of what's happening with their children. For us, that parent notification system that we've been working with, of course, this is our second, actually we worked second semester last year, and now we're continuing to use Everyday Labs, which provides so much information. And through that information, they help us send out nudges to our parents and to our students if we have that registered cell phone, and also emails. And the emails are just, hey, you know, you've missed so many days. We miss you. Where are you? They're really friendly. They're geared to being more friendly to our students as well. And on the flip side, they also get nudges and emails and information that are very friendly, like, hey, you've been to school 10 days in a row, that's great, keep it up. And so Everyday Labs has really been a great support for us, and that is our proactive measure when it comes to our system. We also have Aptigee, as you all know. I know that Trustee Call mentioned he got a text message about his son being, you know, a little behind in work, but also Aptigee works. It's our district notification system. So even when a student is absent, it's a way of, as President Hanani said, to send out information for buses. It is our communication system that we have in the district. So we also utilize that to notify parents and to make sure that they're informed of their children's absences. And finally, through Everyday Labs, we do offer support webinars for our staff, for administrators, because there's a lot of additional resources that are embedded where campuses can actually pull that data. It's live data, and they can see what's happening on their campus, and they can use that in conjunction with the reports they're running out of Frontline to kind of to verify what it is they're looking at in terms of data. And so it's been a really great help. And the last thing that I'd like to share on proactive measures is that we also have a service through our Everyday Labs parent notification system that works with parents on outside resources. So if there's something happening in the home that maybe a student is not able to make it because of transportation, or because there's just some issues with maybe housing or nutrition, right? That they're getting that support, and because Everyday Labs will download the resources from our community to help be able to answer those questions for parents and to guide and direct them in the right direction. So there's a lot that we're doing to be proactive, because we really want to make sure that a student isn't missing school because they have to walk a sibling to school, or there's just no light at the house, so they couldn't do their homework, or, you know, utility issues. We want to be proactive in the sense that not only are we addressing attendance for our children, but that we're also supporting our families who are taking care of their children and doing the best that they can to send their kids to school. So, thank you.
Thank you so much.
We're good.
Yes.
We're good. I'm the ringer. Almost done. Almost done. Truly, you all gave us a directive back in June. Ms. Hanani, you gave us that directive. So since June, we've actually been bringing the team together. There's about 11 different departments that have been working consistently. We have a working committee. And that working committee, what we've done is we've looked at data. If you looked at that third slide, we looked at impact on attendance. We started looking, okay, what did the District of Innovation, how did it impact? Did it impact our attendance? Did it impact our graduation rate, loss of credit, failure grades? So what we've done is we've done a deep dive with data. Then what we did is we turned and we said, Student Parent Services, you got all the information that they've been implementing. How is that? What has happened from there? Have we had good results, or are we still in the implementation stage? So all of that information, that working committee has come together, and with that, we're bringing in our advisory committee. That'll start in October. Our advisory committee will include parents, it'll include counselors, it'll include administration from the campus, elementary, middle school, K-8, and high school. Because now that we have all the research, we want to say, this is what we've seen. This is the data that is leading us to say, yes, we should keep the District of Innovation exemption as is, or we're going to recommend X, Y, or Z. That recommendation and comprehensive report will come to you all in November. The reason we wanted to give you in November, it's part of the resolution, but we want to give us time. Once we provide that to you in November, we want feedback from you all. If we have to make any adjustments or do additional research, we'll bring it back to you in January to actually approve. And at that point, that will increase or actually put the District of Innovation plan. It actually ends in 25-26, so therefore it would give us another 5 years with whatever recommendations we move forward. So with that, we're here to get feedback. Again, drum roll, tomorrow, this week, you'll see the reveal from the students. And truly, attendance, it's about all of us. It's not in a silo. It's about breaking the fact. I know when I was little, man, unless I was dying, I'd be at school. And I think that's all of us. Now it's become a little bit of optional, especially after COVID, so we have to change that. How can we make sure that attendance is mandatory? And as we see, if kids are here, they're engaged, they're going to do amazing things, and it helps us, I'll say, cha-ching, bring the money back in to put the resources back into our schools. Officially done.
Thank you so much. This is a huge priority for us, just when it comes to academic performance, when it comes to the finances. So we want to do everything we can, and it's really refreshing to see all of the work that's being put in to try to get us back on track. I hope we can get like a sneak peek at least of this big reveal, maybe Thursday night, we all get a text message, and it's really nice. But again, thank you. I do have one quick thing, but I want to open the floor to anybody else who has questions or comments. Trustee, yep.
Okay. I guess the very last thing that I would ask, it's great to know how we're moving forward to get the information about DOI status. If we could get maybe a little bit more of a deep dive, this is probably your department, Ms. Macias, on, again, how the root cause analysis for some of our chronic absenteeism. I think it would be great to have that information. I know some schools are more affected than others when it comes to, there's different reasons depending on which area, which campus. So maybe some of that data could be helpful, just so that we, again, have a better understanding of what some of the issues are that are affecting attendance and also academic performance, because they are very, very tightly correlated. But very excited for Friday. I'm really going to send a message to say, hey, can we get a sneak peek? Because, I think we're getting excited about it. But thank you. We look forward to some of that forthcoming information. We appreciate you being here so late. Thanks again. So in the old world, we would be adjourning at 7:22, which is a little bit miraculous. But for those of you who are watching and can hear publicly, because of SB 12, we would typically have, what the items that we would typically take in a special meeting before the regular board meeting, we are now going to be taking following what would be our traditional regular board meeting as closed items. And so that's what we're going to do beginning today. This went into effect on September 1st. So from now on, instead of having a special meeting before the regular, it's going to be just the regular, and we'll go into closed session for those items that are necessary to go into closed session for. So that's just kind of be par for the course from now on. And that's why we are now going to item number 8, which is meeting to be closed under sections 551.071, 551.074, 551.082, and 551.082, of the Texas Government Code. And we will be coming out to take any action on those items prior to adjournment. So the time is now 7:23. We will be going into closed session. Good evening. The time is now 10:05, and this meeting is being called back into open session. We will move on to item 9A, that's been withdrawn. Item 9B, discuss and take action on grievance appeal, elementary teacher, Whitaker Elementary School. Is there a motion on the item?
Yes, I move that the board uphold the superintendent designee's decision to deny this grievance appeal.
That is a motion by trustee Call. Can I get a second?
A second.
That is a second by trustee Beals. Ms. Sutton, how do you vote?
No.
Trustee Osterland?
No.
Trustee Leverage?
Yes.
Trustee Cuellar?
No.
Trustee Beals?
No.
Trustee Call?
Yes.
And that is a no from me. That motion carries 5, that motion fails, 2-5. That will take us to item E, sorry, B, C. Sheesh, I'm sorry. I scribble so much on my notes that I can't read the letters. 9C, discuss and take appropriate action on grievance appeal, bus monitor aid transportation. Is there a motion on the item?
Yes. I move that the board uphold the grievance request to resign effective the date of her termination and not uphold the superintendent's designee's decision.
That is a motion by trustee Cuellar. Is there a second?
Second.
That is a second by trustee Leverage. I'll go the other way now. Trustee Call?
Yes.
Trustee Beals?
Yes.
Trustee Cuellar?
Yes.
Trustee Leverage?
Yes.
Trustee Osterland?
Yes.
Trustee Sutton?
Yes.
That's a yes from me. That motion carries 7-0. That will take us to item D. Discuss and take appropriate action on GARCOM Inc. versus El Paso Independent School District, cause number 2025-DCB-3838 in the 243rd Judicial District Court, El Paso County, Texas. Is there a motion on the item?
I move that the interim superintendent and legal counsel proceed as discussed in closed session.
That's a motion by trustee Leverage. Is there a second?
Second.
That is a second by trustee Osterland. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries 7-0. That will take us to item E, discuss and take appropriate action relating to Coronado High School additions and renovations, Package 2, Construction Project 17.627, claims by HB Construction. Is there a motion?
I move that the interim superintendent and legal counsel proceed as discussed in closed session.
That is a motion by trustee Call. Is there a second?
Second.
That is a second by trustee Cuellar. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries 7-0. That takes us to item 10, and really quickly, Ms. Aguirre, before I pass it over, there are some upcoming board meetings that we will be, I believe one is posted. Ms. Collins, is that correct, for next Tuesday? Is that posted already?
I'm not sure if it's posted
Okay.
already. I would have to
Not
ask
yet.
Ms. Carrasco.
So there will be, we anticipate there will be 2 board meetings, one next week and the following week in the morning, to operationalize the board operating procedures. So I'm sharing that in open session with the rest of the board. Those board operating procedures currently are from 2015. So there's been some working versions that have sort of been circulating over the last couple of years. So we're going to try and get those going, update those with some current legislation, make sure that they're current, and, you know, solicit feedback from the board so that we can have something that is much more current than the 2015 version. Ms. Carrasco will be notifying you all of the time and date of those meetings. Ms. Aguirre?
Yes, so as we look towards the October regular board meeting, we will be presenting to you the district's and campus improvement plans for your consideration. We will also be presenting a public hearing or meeting for the financial integrity rating system report. We will have an academics related report as well as a facilities update report.
Thank you so much. And that takes us to item number 11, which is adjournment. The time is now 10:10 p.m. and this item is adjourned. Thanks, everybody, for staying so late.